Hi, everyone, and welcome to the WP Minute. I'm Eric Karkovac. Today, I'm joined by Marcus Burnette, founder of the WP World, a media partner of the WP Minute. Marcus is here to tell us about WellPlayedWP, a new plugin membership service he's launched. Marcus, welcome to the WP Minute.
Hey, Eric. Thanks so much for having me.
Yeah, I'm glad to get a chance to talk to you. I think we've followed each other on socials for a very long time. I know you've been around the WordPress space for a while.
Yeah. I think sort of floating around each other. I don't know if that we've officially met in person, but a lot of the same places at different times and all of that. But yeah, started in the WordPress space. Actually, it's interesting. My foray into WordPress is a lot longer than into the community itself, although it feels like I've been part of the community for quite a while now. But yeah, I've been dabbling in WordPress since probably about 2015, 2016, but not really delve into the community until really around COVID, 2020, 2021, somewhere around there. And so, that's when I've primarily gotten a chance to meet and chat with folks like yourself, was probably the last, 5 or 6 years.
Yeah, it was probably a good time to come into the community since you probably had no one else to talk to. You're stuck in
Yeah.
your office all day. Well, I looked at your personal website, and I know you've got a lot of projects going on. You seem like a very busy person. So how many projects are you actively juggling right now?
Ooh, that's a good question. I don't even know that my personal website is fully up to date. I think probably a couple of those I'm maybe not as actively doing, but have picked up a couple of other things. So yeah, for those that don't know, my full-time job is at Bluehost. I lead a couple of teams at Bluehost that do design and development of websites for customers. So obviously people know Bluehost as a host, but you got to host something at a host. And if people don't have a website, that's where my teams come in. We help build for businesses to have a presence online. Beyond that, yeah, number of side projects. I have very strong opinion on whether or not folks should be able to, not be able to, but should pursue side projects and try to lead by example. So I have the WP World that I started, I think probably about 3 years ago now, which is a community resource for the WordPress space, kind of a directory of sorts, but also a place that showcases all the events, the major events. Doesn't include meetups, but anything kind of WordCamp, small WordCamp, and larger is listed on the WP World for people to see. Details about that and where they can get involved in the community, along with a handful of other resources there. I'm continuously trying to build that site up to be more and more of a helpful resource for folks in the WordPress space. And then I have, WellPlayedWP, which I think we'll talk about a little bit today, which is one of my newer ones. I have a side project that I actually ran from 2014 to 2019 that I'm kind of resurrecting. It's for the education space, but it'll be running on a WordPress website.
Okay.
But it's a tool for educators primarily. So working on that, and then I have another project called Ride Reply that allows folks to communicate with others via encrypted license plate. So you see somebody with their lights on in the parking lot, and you want to let them know you don't know who they are. You can message their license plate, and they'll if they're on the site, they'll get the message on the other end. So that's also fairly new. The site's up and running. Just actually worked on my very first iOS app ever, building that out into an app, and so that's currently in the approval process in the Apple App Store. So yeah, lots of spinning plates or juggling balls or irons in the fire, or whatever you want to call it. Definitely a ton of things going on. I kind of like it that way. I like to keep myself challenged and interested, and just see, really it's all kind of just pursuit of knowledge, see what I can learn, see what new thing. That's the major benefit I find from side projects is you don't have to answer to anybody, so you can just learn. You can make mistakes. You can learn something new. Something interests you about a direction. You can just take that direction. You don't have to ask for permission and all of that. So, all in the pursuit of learning something new every day.
Yeah, and you don't get bored, right? You're always
Yeah,
you're
it's
always challenged by
too much
something else.
going on to get bored.
Well, that's a good thing. So, I mean, you found this time somewhere in your schedule for Well Played WP. Explain a little bit about what it is and how did you decide to start this?
Yeah, yeah, a lot of nights and weekends when it comes to finding time for a schedule. Um, because there's a family and stuff. I need to spend time with them too. But
Yes.
people do go to bed sometimes, so I've been told. And then when they go to bed is when I when I have some time to work on things like Well Played WP. Yeah, I over the course of the last maybe 6 months to a year started to accumulate a little bit of a library of WordPress plugins that were more than a code snippet, more than just a handful of lines of code that you would paste into a code snippet plugin or into your theme functions file, but not quite something as big as like an e-commerce platform or learning management system. Mostly things that solved issues that I had or that my teams at Bluehost had. And I thought, let's see if I can put something together, collaborate with Codex mostly to see what I can come up with there, and started to collect a bit of a library that was just sitting on my computer. And I thought, why am I holding on to this when there are other people that may be interested in the functionality that some of these mini plugins provide, I would call them. And so decided to kind of bundle them together. Again, neither of them is enormous, but they're also not, just a handful of lines of code. So I thought, um, why not put them together in a library and see if somebody out there might have use for a handful of them and kind of sell them as a bundle. And so they're not a bundle in the sense that I would never recommend that anybody install all of them on their website. They're not really related to each other. They're all kind of different use cases. Other than there are some that are WooCommerce specific, there are some that are Elementor specific. At the moment, those are kind of the categories outside of just general WordPress usage that exists. But again, still wouldn't recommend that somebody just, fully activates all of them all at once. But my hope is that you look at the library and they're just over 20 at the moment. I'm going to continue to grow that, of course. But find, I don't know, 3, 4, 5, 6 of them that serve a purpose in either your own site or client sites, and decide to go ahead and buy a license. One license covers download, activate, and update for all of the plugins. Kind of the way it works, I have a core Well Played WP library plugin. You install that into as many sites as you want, depending on your plan that you've chosen, and then you can one-click install any of the plugins from the library right in that site through the main plugin.
Okay.
So you're not going back to Well Played WP and downloading plugins and then going back to the website to install them. You kind of have that hub from installing the Well Played WP library plugin and kind of one-click install through there. So I the idea kind of came because I didn't want to just create just another plugin shop where you can come and kind of piecemeal a la carte. I want this plugin and that plugin, and now I've got 6 different licenses for different plugins that I'm juggling to keep these updated. So try to keep it simple, try to figure out what can I do a little bit differently. And one of my favorite Mac apps actually is called Set App. And it's basically a library of other kind of mini apps, if you will, for Mac OS, and I use a handful of those on my Mac. And so I decided let's maybe borrow that business model. And while Setup, I think, is a collection of apps that are created by a number of different companies, all of the Well Played WP plugins are plugins that I've built. So in that way, it's different, but in the sense that you have kind of that main app, the main plugin that allows you to install the other ones into a website. It was kind of the model I was going for. So yeah, that's kind of how it came to be. It's kind of how I thought through the model and why I wanted to go the direction that I did. And I think that it's a nice little collection of plugins, and to continue to grow it as um, inevitably I find other things that our customers at Bluehost or I myself need in in a mini plugin, and I'll add them to the library over time.
Cool, cool. Well, I mean, I know the bundled membership type of thing has been around for a while. Like the first thing I thought of when I saw this was WPMU Dev, who's been doing this for, my gosh, probably over a decade, right? Where you pay a fee and you get access to these plugins. They also have their own hub that you use to install things one by one. I can imagine, like for someone in your situation, it's like you don't want to have to sell all those individually. That is a lot of, just the license, as you mentioned, the licensing in itself has to be kind of a nightmare. This way you get one key, right? And you're just
Mm-hmm.
plugging in, you're just adding whatever you want to your site when you're ready for it.
Yeah, WPMU Dev is a good example, but they're definitely in the minority in plugin shops and how plugins are sold. Kind of the other ones that sort of do something similar are the ones that have kind of a flagship product like a Gravity Forms or like
Sure.
a Learn Dash, and then you can buy the bundle of their add-ons. And so it was sort of looking at those models and seeing how that works, but not tying it to a flagship product, right? And yeah, like you said, the licensing part, as a customer of plugins, I don't love that I have, a dozen different licenses that I need to keep track of. And, yeah, I keep them in 1Password or whatever. I mean, there are solutions out there for license management and stuff. Um, but man, to have to just reach in and then to download and install every time I'm creating a new website, let me go grab all the downloads for each of the plugins that I need again. Let me go grab all the licenses, make sure everything's licensed, then make sure everything's updated. And so trying to eliminate some of that hassle, especially within this library, right? If there's hopefully 5 or 6 plugins that are useful to you, it's still just one license that you have to manage there. And so hopefully, hopefully that's a benefit enough. And it also provides you the entire library at any time. So as the library continues to grow, you're not having to check back in and to see what's new, right? All of those things show up inside the admin dashboard inside of WordPress, where you can see what's new inside of there. And you don't have to buy a new license, you don't have to generate a new license, you just one click install that plugin, and it's on site ready to go.
Yeah, that's definitely a handy feature for people, especially when you start to consider agencies or somebody that, has a lot of websites to
Mm-hmm.
manage. Which brings me to, I mean, I look at the plugins here. We have a good mix here. We have, a classroom library plugin, which I think is cool to help catalog books and allow people to sign them in and out. Google logins, markdowns in the block editor. Cool stuff. And multi-email login, which I think is actually kind of a cool thing for like membership sites. I could see that being used. But then you also have your WooCommerce and your Elementor stuff. Do you have like a target market for this? Is it agencies, or do you think it's more the individual site owner?
Yeah, I mean, I think that it's probably more suited to agencies. Certainly there's any number of these plugins that an individual might need for their website, or um I could, like you said, classroom library and Google logins and stuff. I could go into the reason why every single one of these was created in the first place, and they serve kind of different purposes in a lot of cases. So I think the agency or freelancer is probably the target market, simply because the range of what you need for any given project differs, right? So rather than finding 4 or 5 of these plugins that you might use on one site, probably makes sense that you'd use 3 of them on, one site, and then maybe there's a little bit overlap, but 4 of them on a different site, and then a couple different ones on another site. And that's all still wrapped into one license, right? So you're not trying to figure out, okay, now which ones do I have licensed where and all of that. It
And I
just
noticed
makes
you
it,
have licenses for different use cases too. Like if it's just a single site, I think there's like a 10 site and then an unlimited, which, for the
yeah,
busy agency is nice because you can just, install at will basically on every new project and you've
right.
got access to everything.
Yeah, we pretty quickly get to unlimited there, right? So one site really, of course you can get the one site license and use it on the site if you're just kind of running your own business or just need it for one website. I kind of like to see it as, because it's relatively inexpensive, it's kind of an entry into seeing how the plugin works. It's a very low commitment bar. Even if you're a freelancer or agency, just kind of want to take it for a spin, you can grab that one site license, throw it on a website, see what the library looks like inside of a website, see what the licensing looks like and how you can install the plugins and all of that. It's not really a trial, but almost feels kind of like a potential trial offering with a very, very low commitment. And then 10 sites, is probably geared towards either a freelancer, smaller business that maybe has 2 or 3 of their own sites that they run, and they want to make sure that they have, enough coverage for all of the sites. And then after that, right, we're jumping into agency world probably, where you have unlimited sites. You have 10 plus, or 11 plus. At that point, you're probably not running them all for yourself. You're probably at that point freelancer or agency building sites for clients. So that's kind of the breakdown there from 1 to 10 to unlimited. Pretty easily get there for the different use cases.
Was it challenging to come up with those models? Even just the pricing of it, because I know a lot of times we talk about in WordPress, we're underselling our products, or we're giving too much away, perhaps. Is that something that you kind of wrestled with?
For sure. Yeah. Plenty of research done there to see kind of what the model is. Again, I wanted to do something a little bit different, but at the same time, the kind of 110 unlimited breakdown is a bit, tried and proven. There are a number of different plugin companies that plugin shops that do kind of that same basic breakdown, which again makes sense when you think about, the 1 is for kind of your own shop, 10 is for, you know, still maybe your own, but you're running a few different websites and you want it all, or the agency model. So, again, I looked around and there were a number that were doing that basic breakdown, 110 unlimited, and then allowing the monthly versus annual option depending on what people are comfortable with. So I kind of knew that I wanted to go that route. Now, when it came to setting actual dollar values to those, yeah, it's a little bit of just kind of playing around what I think the value is for what I'm offering here. It probably is on the low side, and that's going to harken back to, everything else that I've done with WordPress and the WP world, and kind of giving back and trying to make sure that this comes in at a place where it is affordable, where people can take advantage of it. And, hope my hope is that people do see a handful of plugins in here that they can use either on a project or across a number of projects, and and are able to take advantage of that. But yeah, pricing is always hard. It's always hard, and I'm sure, if I priced out every single one of these plugins as an individual plugin, and what a annual cost for a plugin that does what that does compared it to other plugins, I'm sure I'm far underselling by bundling them all together at a relatively low, monthly or annual price. And right now, for I think through the end of May, and I may extend it into June a little bit, but at least till the end of May, I'm giving 50% off the annual. So what's normally, saving a couple of months by going annual, I think at this point you're paying for 4 months or so of 4 or 5 months of of what a monthly would be for an annual cost. And so yeah, I think the support for most of these is minimal. They're like I said, mini plugins. They do fairly targeted things well. And so, you know, obviously that cost covers updates and support, and I fully intend to support all of these plugins, but I think the support load will be low given what they do and how well they work. Um, you know, most of them are translated into 5 or 6 languages. That's, thanks to the help of Codex and AI. I think I went back and forth on whether or not I wanted to do it that way, and ultimately decided that if you're, you know, let's say you're a predominantly Spanish speaker and you don't speak a whole lot of English, 85% good Spanish is going to be better than 100% good English.
Yeah, yeah.
And my English isn't perfect anyways to begin with, but so I made sure that they're translated, accessible, they're all performant, they're all security checked 2 and 3 times. And so I think there's a lot of good stuff going on there that I'm excited for people to get their hands on.
So you did mention like the opportunity to grow the library and do, add more plugins. How much do you think customer feedback is going to play a role in that? Because I mean, I am sure you're going to get messages, "Hey Marcus, this is so cool, but could you add this? Could you make it do that?" Is that something that you're anticipating? And I know you kind of have to take it on a case by case basis.
Yeah, absolutely. Percent. I'm actually very looking forward to seeing how people are looking to use the plugins that are in this library. Most of them come with some developer hooks, some action and filter hooks that people can extend them on their own even. But for those that are a little less developer-y, or want to do something that there isn't a hook for, yeah, I'm actually very excited to see how people are going to use some of these plugins in practice, in their practical use. Again, almost all, if not all of these were built out of use cases that I had. So I already know one way that all of these plugins can be used because I've used them. They're all being used in one way, shape, or form in other sites in production. But for anybody that's run a plugin company or done support for a plugin company, that customers will try to use plugins in creative ways that maybe they weren't necessarily intended to, but might be a great workaround if it just did, this, or if it just did that. Like anything, obviously I have to support what code goes in here. So I want to be cautious and make sure that whatever code I go in, I can support long term. So I won't necessarily be quick to jump on every recommendation. But certainly I'm excited to hear what people will have for feedback and how they want to use the plugin. And, if it makes sense for majority of other folks to have that same functionality, then, yeah, good chance I'll build that in.
Yeah, it's going to be a learning experience. I'm sure once things hit the public, that's when you really start to get, a sense of what everything's going to turn into in the future. But I wanted to mention, like, so you have all these projects, you have the WP world. I would think you have your own marketing engine kind of already built already, right? I mean, that's got to be a little bit of an advantage when you are launching something new like this.
Yeah, for sure. I'm treating currently a couple of these podcast interviews and stuff a little bit like a soft launch, because it is a bit new. Not new as a project, but it is that too. A bit new of an experience for me, right? This is my first time running a plugin product shop. I've done support for plugin product shop. I was on the support team at Skyverge when we got acquired by GoDaddy, so I've supported plugins in the past. And I've developed a handful of plugins in the past that are on the WordPress.org repo, and so I've done support for those and updates and added features based on feedback and all of that. So it's not completely new, but running something like this, totally my own, is a little bit new. So treating this like a soft launch kind of. but yes, having access obviously to the WP world and the folks that are on the WP world, and being able to share a project like this there is definitely something that that I'll be doing. Decent enough following on social media, so I've been trying to share tidbits about the project, really about all of the different projects, on social media, just to kind of get people a sense for what I'm working on. Um, but yeah, it is its own marketing engine, but it's not gonna work in isolation. So, trying to get the word out to different sources and be able to come on and really share the story. This interview is great. If I provided the transcript in a WP World newsletter, I think people would read the first couple of sentences and then move on. So being able to have conversations like this where I can kind of share the entire story and not just a paragraph and please go check it out is also really great for something like this.
Yeah. Any particular plugins stand out to you that in this collection that it makes that you think is going to be like a hit with users?
Yeah, there's a couple. I would say that WP Lifeline is one that I'm excited about. I know a lot of you know agencies, clients of agencies and stuff will run into issues where something gets updated and their site goes blank, white screen, can't get back in, forgot my password, or I moved agencies from one agency to another and I never had the admin password. Like that I don't I all I have is a subscriber login or editor login or whatever. WP Lifeline it's a proactive plugin. You got to get it in beforehand, before something happens. But once you install WP Lifeline, it gives you a unique URL to your website that you can come back to a WP Lifeline dashboard of tools, basically for troubleshooting your website. It loads before the admin loads, and so regardless of what's going on under the hood, you'll be able to get to your WP Lifeline dashboard, and from there you can activate and deactivate different plugins and themes. You can create an admin user account. You can change the user account. You change user account passwords from that dashboard. There's PHP error logs that you can see there, MySQL error logs that you can see there. So basically a whole troubleshooting suite that loads right before the admin loads on your WordPress website. And so I think that one will be super helpful for folks that want to make sure that they have ways to get back into their website if something were to happen.
Yeah, I could see that being a pretty nice
Yeah.
resource for those oh crap moments that we all kind of get after certain updates run, or that you
Yeah,
said you're
for
changing
sure.
agencies or transferring your site somewhere. It's not always the easiest thing, especially for the non-technical person.
Yeah, there's so many things that can go wrong in a website, and so having something like WP Lifeline in there to just be kind of peace of mind. If something does happen, I've got a way back in. It's going to be, not diving into the database to figure out where user rows are and update passwords that way. I mean, there's always other ways, but if you're not technically savvy or you just don't want that hassle, you just put in WP Lifeline ahead of time. And then I have some Elementor and WooCommerce ones that I think are super helpful for folks that are using those. There's a couple for Elementor that I honestly wish were part of Elementor's native bundling. There's an advanced loop editor. One of the things that I have struggled with for a long time is when you're creating loops of posts, loops of content in Elementor, your options for filtering those the way that you want them to show is very limited without writing some custom code. And so there's an advanced loop editor there to make it a little bit easier in the sidebar to kind of filter the things the way you want them. And then there's a really nice gallery grid plugin that just is the more creative image grid or CSS grid based gallery type formatting stuff, and you kind of have full control with a grid editor where you can basically just drag the shape that you want the grid to be, and then it'll fill the photos in and stuff there for you. So yeah,
Nice.
some really cool stuff. I haven't, well, I've started, but I haven't posted any of them yet. I'm going to go through and do videos for every single one of them. So people will be able to see, kind of under the hood what it looks like to get set up with any one of these, before they even, sign up for memberships. Hoping to, in my spare time, get those videos done. Excuse me.
While the
Get
world
those
sleeps,
videos
you'll make the
done.
videos. Yeah.
While the world sleeps, I'll be recording videos in a quiet corner of my house, so that people could get a sense for each of the plugins. There's screenshots for each of them now, so you can kind of take a peek at the screenshots and see what it looks like. But I think video really says a lot about how it works and what your options are. And so I'm going to be doing videos for each one of them here soon.
Awesome. Well, I'm going to wrap it up with this. Anything we should be on the lookout for with this project or any of your many projects in the next few months? Anything special you're working on?
I mean, yeah, there's a lot going on. I'm just excited to roll some of it out. Like I said, with Rad Reply having an app, I'm excited to get an app in the App Store. I think that particular project needs an app to actually work, to flourish. So people can, pull a phone out of their pocket and type a message to somebody while they're in the parking lot, while they're driving, not while they're driving, but
No
while you're
texting and driving.
while you're away from home, while you're out on the road and whatever. Yeah, the education project is called Flip Quiz. I'm just excited to relaunch that. There's so much more that can be done with that now, through not just AI helping build the project, but integrating AI into the project for educators, and some of the stuff that that now we can do to help facilitate teachers and professors and stuff, just engaging students in the classroom. So I'm really excited for that. And then continuing to just add plugins to WellPlayedWP. I have one that I'm going to be wrapping up here today. That's it's a countdown, like a landing page countdown type thing, that actually lets you block a specific page until the countdown is done. So you can set your page up and have it ready to go, and then have this countdown plugin block the page with a nice countdown timer and whatever message and imagery that you want. Then when the countdown gets to 0, it unlocks the page basically for whoever wants to look at it. So I'm going to be adding that today. And then earlier this week, I added also the ability. So once you've installed the WellPlayedWP library, you have access to all of these plugins one click. You also now have a tab inside that library that will show you all of the favorites that you favorited on WordPress.org, your favorite plugins. And you can then also one click install any of those from inside the plugin as well. And so your username, right now, I think you can do that in the plugins anyways, but you got to type in your username and then it shows you all your favorites. Your username, your .org username, is actually tied to your WellPlayed license. So anytime that you install it and put your license in, it'll show you all your favorites. You don't have to keep putting your .org username in over and over again to see your favorites and install them from there. So, nothing groundbreaking necessarily with that, but just a nice little, nice little piece just to make life a little bit easier for freelancers and agencies that are installing plugins a lot. Well, whether it's the WellPlayed library plugins or whether it's other favorites on .org, now you have one place to kind of one click easily install those. So yeah, just be on the lookout. Best place, I'm sure you're going to ask me in a moment anyways, best place to see what's going on is probably on Twitter. I'm Marcus D. Burnette on Twitter. Anything that I share on the other accounts, I generally repost on Marcus D. Burnette. So just following me there on Twitter, you'll probably see a lot of stuff from Rad Reply and from WellPlayedWP, and then go follow those accounts too. I'd love to have to folks join me on those and see specifically what's going on. But yeah, there's a huge list of ideas, and I'm trying to kind of spread them out across the project, so not one project gets all the attention for all the time. But Yeah, man, I'm just having fun building stuff, and I'm excited for it to be in people's hands and for them to use it.
Well, that's awesome. I love it when people are passionate about the work and that, they're having as much fun doing it as people are using it. And that's kind of how it should be, as far as I'm concerned. It's like that's what I
agree.
fell in love with WordPress in the community of, because of that kind of stuff, the developers who eat, sleep, and breathe this stuff. And I can tell you're in that crowd. So
I'm gonna need a
congratulations.
vacation here soon, but
Yeah.
until then, I'm gonna keep building stuff and putting it out there. Like I said, I'm just having a blast.
Well, awesome. I thank you for coming on and telling us about it. We'll put a link to everything in the show notes, but it's wellplayedwp.com. You can check out all of Marcus's awesome little plugins here and get some info on signing up. So we wish you luck with that. And thanks to everybody for watching and listening. Please visit us over at thewpminute.com/subscribe. Grab our newsletter, become a member, join our Slack for free. Come talk with us. And thanks. We'll see you next time.